Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's third and final video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the 10 to 14 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 20th of November. And we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM Ensembles. Maybe runs around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at the CFS V2 at the end of the video for December. And I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say that the first video release date was our 6 AM UK weather forecast. We've also released January Friday as well. Please check out those two videos. Like, share and subscribe on all of today's videos and content. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. Could be live at 10:30 with the pub run. Wow, wow, wow. I'll see you a little bit later on for that one. Okay, let's start off with the CT. Central temperatures tick down to 8.9 now, into the 8s. That's still 2.4 degrees above 61.990 average, but it's provisional to the 9th of November as well. But as I say, that has finally ticked down under the 9s, and it should keep falling through the next couple of days, I think. We're probably getting to about the mid-8s, I would have thought, then levelling off, maybe rising a little bit for the early part of next week. It'll be interesting to see where we come out with this November. I don't really have a feel at the moment for where that's going to be. I've got a feeling it might be in the 7s, but we'll see about that. Okay, these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're going to Leeds today. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Leeds. You see that we're below average with the upper air temperature at the moment. They are going to tick up a little bit as we get to the end of the weekend and the beginning of next week before falling away again later next week. And then as we go into the final sort of week, 10 days or so of November, we are hovering close to or above average. There's a lot of scatter within that, though, I have to say. So there are some very mild ensemble members up here, including the GFS 6Z operational run. Have got colder ensemble members down there. It looks like the trend through the last week, 10 days of November is milder, but also with pressure rising. So this would be sea level pressure ensemble for Leeds. Again, you see we're starting off with relatively low pressure at the moment, around 1,000 millibars. It looks like it's about the 80s, so about a week's time, that's when pressure starts to rise to between 1,020, 1,030 millibars. After that, again, a lot of scatter. So the GFS 6 operational run is anticyclonic, keeping pressure at around 1,020, 1,030 millibars. Other ensemble members down here are more low pressure dominated. High pressure does build in the second half of or in the final week, 10 days of November. That obviously would turn things drier. The position of high pressure would be critical as to whether it's mild or whether we start thinking about frost and fog. And of course, it's much too far out to have any confidence about that. But possibly a bit of a change on the way compared to all of the deluge that we've had through this autumn so far. Certainly October and first half of November have been very, very wet, but we might be seeing signs of a little bit of a change here. Temperature anomalies on the 10th to the 18th of November, a little bit above average for England, Wales, a little bit below average for Scotland. Not a particularly big deviation either way. Excuse me, everybody. And precipitation anomalies on the 10th to the 18th of November, about average, but drier than average across central and northern parts of Scotland. Not as wet as it has been with those anomaly charts. Latest Windflow Map from earthnorthschool.net showed we're between low pressure areas today. So we've got one low in the North Sea. We've got more low pressure in the Atlantic. In between, we've got a ridge beginning to build. That is going to be killing off the showers and giving us a drier afternoon. And tomorrow should be mostly dry as well. And then the rain returns as we get through into Sunday. Okay, let's start going through chart data then. This is our latest UK Met Euro run. It's talking midnight on Monday, so just what I'm talking about. By then, low pressure is breaking back through, so wet weather is returning off the Atlantic later on in the weekend. That gets us to midnight Tuesday, quite a vigorous low sitting in the North Sea. So that implies heavy rain and potentially gale force winds as pushed across the country on Monday. And then into middle of next week, well, low pressure keeps on coming. So certainly the UK Met Euro run, the unsettled weather goes on up to this time next week. to the 17th of November with a rather cool and showery northwest wind, just signs of a little bit of a ridge starting to build out in the Atlantic though. Icon again bringing low pressure through on Sunday into Monday, and then through next week, yes, further low pressures sweeping. You remember yesterday, Icon was really developing a significant area of low pressure late Tuesday into Wednesday, another storm. That low is still there. It's this elongation just here, this disturbance here. Obviously, that's not been developed anywhere near as much on this Icon run as it was yesterday, so maybe we're backing off the idea of another significant storm through the middle of next week. But regardless, it does look very unsettled with low pressure continuing. And then we head on into the second half of next week, and we continue to look unsettled, showery and cool with winds in from a west or a northwesterly direction. And that's as far as we get to with Icon. So then, just so you can get a little bit of ridge building up from the southwest, could that be the start of a transition to higher pressure and drier conditions to the second half of November? Inconclusive, but there's still plenty of low pressure in the Atlantic. GFS midnight run looks like that again. Low pressure advancing in from the west on Monday, bringing further wet, windy weather in with it. There's that little low Tuesday to Wednesday. Again, not winding out quite as much as yesterday's bottom run, but we do need to keep an eye on it still. Might develop into quite a significant feature for the middle of next week. Regardless, it will be unsettled through next week with low pressure bringing further showers and or long spells of rain. There is a potential some quite windy weather around the middle part of the week as well. Now we get into the weekend of the 18th, 19th of November. Signs of a little bit of a change. Higher pressure starts to ridge in from off the Atlantic, or trying to, but the next low sort of flattening it off very quickly away to the north and the west. So day 10, 20th of November, has high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, and we bring in the winds from that west or southwesterly direction, looking pretty mild. Perhaps dry in the south, but quite unsettled still up in the north. In the extended range, high pressure then starts taking over, building up from the southwest. So it is a mild ridge, but it's trying to get up towards Scandinavia. Now we eventually find high pressure building quite strongly, actually, into the final sort of week or so of November. That gets us to the 26th of November. We're into the closing days of the month. We're anticyclonic at this point. Winds are coming in from like an easterly direction. It's not a Scandinavian high though, so it's not a really cold easterly. Nevertheless, it's continental flow, so the upper air temperature is relatively mild because it's a mild ridge to start off with, of course. But down on the surface, the dew points are actually looking quite cold, particularly for England and Wales, where we've got, you know, a bit closer to the air coming up the continent. So that's what we call an inversion. That's when it's mild aloft, but it's cold on the surface due to the time of the year. Heat radiates away into space quite quickly, and so we can, you know, turn frosty. Sometimes you get freezing fog as well in those kind of weather patterns. Though it's much too far away from that kind of detail. Just the idea that if high pressure does build in, then the position is critical. Obviously, if the high pressure gets up to Scandinavia, then we bring in like a proper easterly flow. That could be very cold, late November into December. That could bring air out of the Urals and whatnot. So this kind of pattern where the high pressure is like through the continent, then we bring in a continental flow. Continent cools down quickly, of course, at this time of year due to it being a landmass and the time of year, very long nights. So that's where the inversion comes from. Of course, if high pressure is further south, we'll say around the Alps or down to Spain, Portugal, then we draw the wind around it from the west and from the southwest and from the south. Though always the position is critical. That's always a critical factor with high pressure any time of year, but particularly at this time of the year. And it's just an indication we might be in for something drier and more anticyclonic for the final week or so of November. Right, GFS 6 then again with low pressure in off the Atlantic on Monday, bring further wet and windy weather in with it, and keep these unsettled conditions going through next week. No sort of storm of note, but certainly low pressure is the driving force through next week until the end of it, and then a ridge begin to build up from the Southwest 20th dry. So again, we're going back in towards higher pressure here as we get into the weekend of the 18th, 19th of November. That could bring a little bit of frost and fog maybe, particularly for England, Wales, for Scotland, Northern Ireland. It is like a milder solution. That's day 10. Again, more of an influence from high pressure. Definitely a trend within the GFS output anyway today. So into the extended range, we find that high pressure again very close to the country. It is a mild ridge. It's generally centred over to the south of the country, meaning the air coming into high pressure is off the Atlantic. So probably a lot of grey weather, probably a lot of low cloud and that sort of thing. To get like an inversion, we need the high pressure to be more centred over the continent, bring the wind in off the continent. We eventually finish up GFS 6 there. High pressure over the continent, yes, but low pressure deeply in the Atlantic. So we begin to bring the wind up southerly direction. But that might bring some quite cold air in for off the continent, particularly for southern and eastern regions. Before the high pressure slips away and this low in the Atlantic takes over. If you enjoy the video, please can you like, share, subscribe. Once again, everybody, you can please can you like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing that. Why not drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos, and don't get to tell friends about GavsWeatherVids. GavsWeatherVids to subscribe to. We only need to put on 30 subscribers now. Can you believe it? Just 30 subscribers. We'll get ourselves to 17.2k. So if you could give us a sub and tell your friends and family to subscribe, then thank you so very much for doing that. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, the GM again bring low pressure advancing in from off the Atlantic through the early part of next week. Further wet and windy weather to come into the middle of next week. There's that vigorous low, but we may have to keep, well, we do have to keep an eye on it, and we may get quite a significant low sometime around middle of next week. This is like midnight Thursday. So the worst of winds, if that going into northern France, but obviously it's a long way off, so the position could change. It may not even form. Other models don't about that low as much, but there is potential for another significant spell of wind and rain through the middle part of next week. Later next week, that low pressure gets out of the way. We go into a showery and cool northwest wind. Then a ridge tries to build in from the southwest, but actually the GM just keeps low pressure coming. So up to day 10, no sign really of high pressure having any great influence. It's just these areas of low pressure that keep on coming up to day 10, 20th of November with the GM. And then the ECM at WF looks like this once more. Low pressure is advancing in from the Atlantic Sunday into Monday, bringing unsettled weather with it through to Tuesday and Wednesday. Further low pressure dominating. Again, no sign of that significant low through the middle part of next week with the ECM, but it is still low pressure dominating, so it will still be rather showery and unsettled. Later next week, higher pressure tries to ridge up from the southwest, but this low flattens it off. So the upshot is that we probably turn a bit drier down in the south, still unsettled in the north and west, and we draw up what looks like a very mild southwesterly wind there. Heading up toward day 10, that's how we look. So higher pressure trying to get an ascendancy. We are under the influence of this low just here. However, we've got high pressure to the south, bit low, high pressure to the north of it. So I suspect what would happen is that this low will probably get pushed south and become a cut-off low down here. And these two ridges will probably get together. So I think the ECM, if we could go on any further, which we can't, but if we could, I think the ECM will probably go in an anticyclonic direction into the final week or so of November. This is my precipitation forecast based on the ECM run from TemPshow.com. So still showery for the time being, but we have got a dry day coming up tomorrow. Make the most of it, because through Sunday the wet weather returns, particularly to Ireland, England, Wales, Scotland. Could just about get a dry day on Sunday. And then into next week, further wet weather pushing up from the south, bringing spells of wet weather with it. Then we're into showery conditions through the middle part of next week. So I'm turning a little bit wintry later next week as the air gets a bit colder and comes in from the northwest. The weekend, 18th, 19th of November, that brings heavy rain into the north and west, but the south and southeast is a little bit drier then. That's how you finish up with the ECM. So still quite a bit of rain around, to be honest, but possibly after that we will go in a drier, more anticyclonic direction. Excuse me once again, everybody. Right, these are the ECM ensembles. Now, we can't show you the very latest ensemble. We haven't updated it at the Icelandic Met Time. So these are from last night's 12Z swing. So that's the most recent that I can get today from the Icelandic Met Office. So these were the options on the table within the ECM Ensembles for day 10 last night. 17 members of the ECM Ensembles have high pressure ridging up from the southwest at day 10. Low pressure is out to the northwest. And so that's turning drier, but also is quite mild with winds up from the southwest direction. 13 with high pressure again to the south. Low pressure way to the northwest. That's turning drier from the south as well and is quite mild. We've got 12 with high pressure towards Greenland, Iceland. Low pressure in the Atlantic. Oh, that's probably a little bit colder, actually, bringing the wind in for a northeasterly direction. And then we had 9 with a proper Scandinavian high and a real easterly wind. So obviously that would be the coldest of the options there. And then in 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we had, and it gets us to, well, got us to the 24th of November. 29 members of the ECM Ensembles back to very unsettled weather, low pressure dominating, and 22, though, have high pressure taking over towards Scandinavia and into the continent. So again, that's probably relatively dry. Could be quite cold and maybe like with an EC flow, a continental, probably more than a classic EC. I think that's like a chilly continental flow. Could be frost and fog and that sort of thing. But the majority option is actually to go back to low pressure again by the 29th, by 24th of November with both 29. Right, CFS 2, and then we're done. So this is how the latest 700 millibar height anomaly is looking for December with the CFS today. Remember, we change daily. Today's option, that is being consistent with this, is mild and Atlantic driven. Low pressure to the north and to the northwest. High pressure is to the south and southwest. That's the Azores high, of course, and winds coming in from a west or a southwesterly direction. So, unsurprisingly, the model is going for a significantly milder than average December. And as far as precipitation is concerned, it's seeing not much of a signal, but just out to our northwest, it does look very wet. And I suspect with both west-southwest winds and low pressure in control, it would at the very least be an unsettled bump. Westish weather, of course, in the north and the west. We'll see about that. Okay, we're done. If you've enjoyed the video, please can you like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much everyone for doing that. Why not drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And don't forget to tell your friends and family about GavsWeatherVids. Ask them to subscribe, and thank you so much everyone for doing that. Right, so I'll just tell you what's going what's coming up on the channel tomorrow. So we're going to have the 6 AM UK weather forecast. There'll be the EC42 day. If all of that wasn't, I've got weekend forecast and a 10 to 14 day on the way as well. On Sunday, we will have our 6 AM UK weather forecast. We've got the 11th winter update coming up for you on Sunday as well. Yes, we are up to update number 11 of 13. We're getting towards the end of them now. Can you believe it? Hasn't it gone quick? So 11th winter update, 10 AM on Sunday, and then we'll be live at 6 discussing the 11th winter update and bringing you plenty of long range with that. And talking of lives, we're going to be live at 10:30 tonight with the pub run live, so I shall see you later on for that if you're around the channel. But for this video and for today's videos, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.